All right, so in this lesson they talk about when is it costing you too much to keep the car? When is it's what you're paying for it more than it's worth? Okay, so remember we had the depreciation value, the car that started at $24,000 and after 12 years was worth nothing and kind of steadily decreased in value. Remember also that our equations for our line, the y would be your current value of the car, what it ends up being. M is the slope. That's the value that's lost each year. Remember also that we were able to calculate that by taking the original value of the car and dividing that by the number of years it takes to depreciate. And that will tell you how much it's depreciating each year. Okay. This is our time in years. Now in the equation, these will just be x and y. Here you'll want to have an actual number for your slope or how much value you're losing each year. And here you would put the original value of the car. That's your y-intercept or where you're starting from. So in this, we're going to have actually two equations for two different lines. One is the line for the expenses. The other is the line for the depreciation. So notice as your car ages, this depreciation, its worth of the car is getting lower and lower. On the other hand, the expenses, the price to operate the car, is getting higher and higher. And when we reach this point right here, at this point you would probably want to consider getting rid of the car, replacing it with another, because notice as we move on from here in this direction, the cost of operating it is more than it's worth. Okay, so that's the purpose of graphs like these. Let's answer a question here. It said a used car is worth $12,500 when you buy it. The car depreciates in 8 years. So notice it did start up here at $12,500, and after 8 years down here at the bottom, we did end up with a value of 0. Okay. Suppose you make a $2,000 down payment and then make a payment of $111.46 for those 8 years. So that's what our red line is. We started by paying $2,000, and then with each month we made payments, okay, and our pay is going up and up. Okay, it says, what set of equation best represents the line of expense and the line of depreciation? Well, we know how to do this, right? We can do the y equals mx plus b. Okay, so first let's do the depreciation line. So let's talk about, well, b, the number on the end, is supposed to be the starting value for your line. So over here, notice it started at $12,500. So I know on the end I'm going to be adding $12,500. That's my b part. I know I have y equals something times x. That something is my depreciation each year. Remember, we talked about we can tell how much is going down each year if we take the original value of the car. Okay, so to find my m here for the depreciation, I take the original value of the car, $12,500, divide it by the number of years it takes to depreciate, because that will tell me how much it depreciates each year. And when I do that, I get $1,562.50. It's negative because the value it's going down. So negative $1,562.50. So this is what my depreciation equation would look like. It's going down this amount each year, and it started at $12,500. That's depreciation. Now let's do the equation for the expenses. So again, let's think about in y equals mx plus b, expenses are a whole new situation. You still have your starting value. So what did our expenses start at? What's the first amount we put down? What's the starting place of the line? And it said we made a down payment of $2,000. So if we look down here, yeah, our starting place down here is at $2,000. So that's going to be my b, the number added on the end. That's my starting value, my y-intercept, whatever you want to call it. Okay, the next thing we need to assess is what's our m, our slope. How much is the payment going up each year? How much more are we increasing each year in what we've paid? Well, if we take a look at it, what are we paying? We're paying $111.46 every month. How much would that be for a year? Well, since there are 11 months in a year. Since there are 12 months in a year, if we take that times 12, we find out that each year we're spending $1,336.80. So that is the slope of our line. So for your expenses, to find the slope of your line, let me write that a little bigger. What you want to do is take your monthly payment times 12, and that will tell you how much you're paying each year. So again, here are my two equations. For this graph, the depreciation is negative 1,562.50 x plus 12,500, and the expenses equation is $1,336.80 x plus 2,000. Notice they have a negative for depreciation, that's why its line's going down, and a positive slope for expenses, that's why it's going up. Okay, again, we have the same graph. We have that used car. And it started at worth $12,500. We paid it over 8 years. It depreciated. We made a $2,000 down payment, and we made monthly payments of $111.46. When do you start paying more for the car than it is worth? Okay, so what they want to know is, when does this expenses higher on the graph than depreciation? And if we look, we want to look where the two lines cross, and that will be our answer. Okay, now it will depend on whether they wanted it in months or years. So it looks like almost 4 years. When we almost reach the 4-year mark, looks like it's about 3.5. Actually would be a more accurate answer, because here's so it'd be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. It's at about 3.5 years, halfway between 3 and 4. So after 3.5 years, you are now paying more than your car is worth.